Winter is coming.
Might just be the cold.
Winter is coming.
It's cold outside.
You don't know cold.
Winter is coming for him.
It's either me or this cold, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere.
And winter is coming!
You look cold, boys.
Tis a bit nippy.
Winter is coming. Winter is coming.
That's cold. Winter is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cold.
It's cold and it's wet.
Winter is coming.
You're crying because you're cold?
You're a long way from home. And winter is coming.
I imagine you might be rather cold.
And winter is coming.
No, that's all right, I'm fine.
You're not. You're freezing.
And with that, winter is here. And of course, we are referring to our good friend, Russ Winter. Welcome, Russ. Welcome to the Friday FARcast. Once again, on the first Friday. How are you?
Good.
So, I was thinking today that there is a really interesting correlation with your name. And it has to do with the fact that, of course, your last name is Winter. And you're also a Capricorn, which is the most wintry of the winter months. So I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. Then I thought about your first name, which is Russ, which means red, right? That's
or fox, a red fox or something like that.
Right. So then I thought, okay, well, if that's red, then what does that mean? Well, it means that you're probably a red-blooded American male, right? That's what I think.
Well, I never really cared for January, my birth month.
It's kind of a cruel month, man. January is kind of a cruel month. Yeah, it's a cruel month. But then I came to this realization that you really, and we've talked about this before, right? That you opened this chapter of writing and research and journalism and rabbit hole diving kind of later in life. And that's kind of like the winter, of our experience. And as we get older, we're in our winter phase. And like a true Capricorn, you open up this new chapter and it becomes really a fertile ground for you to kind of repurpose yourself and dive into this kind of grisly world that we're living in today. And I was just thinking about that this morning, and it's like, wow, they're all kind of lines up for you in a unique way.
Well, it's made life a little more interesting for me. I haven't been very successful at it. I don't think I've converted very many people. I think most people have no idea. But maybe someday I'll pass away and I'll leave the site up. I asked my son to preserve it, keeping it up, and I almost kind of predict that somebody down the road will find it and utilize some of the material kind of as a resource base.
Well, it's clearly
kind of like Van Gogh, after Van Gogh never saw his success.
Right. Well, so first of all, let me address that. You would be surprised by how many people that you affect and you don't even know about it, right? And the reason I say this is because I have my own experience with this. And and sometimes we feel like we operate in a bubble or a vacuum, and then out of the blue, somebody will send me something, or I'll connect with somebody that I don't even know. They don't show up in chat. And I'm like, wow, you've been listening for that long, or, you've been following my blog for that long. And I'm just telling you, man, you just never know, who you're going to impact. And the other thing too, is I think numbers are really overrated.
Social media is really kind of weird. I mean, the way they suppress everything, and I realize that. I just think numbers. We've talked about talk about how it's so hard to communicate to people, because you got some zinger you want to send out, and usually with me, it's in response to some ne'er-do-well nitwit that's got 200,000 followers, and then I respond.
Half of them are inflated, right? And you and I have covered at great length this whole idea of the turtle on the fence post, and now it's coming out that Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire, who have been kind of the tip of the spear for conservative ideas and the counteroffensive against woke culture, identity politics, and all that stuff. There is really compelling evidence coming out that it is a information front for a certain country.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
Right?
No doubt about it. Yeah, so, it's a Sineum operation, and I kind of wanted to get in to how Zog works, Zionist occupied government.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, in the last few days, there's been some really interesting development. The last couple DMs that I sent you, today, kind of late, kind of some breaking stuff, and you'll notice that I think it was this murder of these World Kitchen people.
Right. Yes.
Really triggered a big response because those are Biden's people.
Yes, they are.
And so that kind of comes close to home. He's sending his crew over there to kind of make a token appearance for humanitarian reasons.
Right.
Nothing real genuine about it, but then they kill him, and then they act like it's the Hamas did it. But then you see the pictures of basically a rocket going right through the top of the car. I mean, I think there's some pictures we might show if people haven't seen it already.
So
and then they admitted it. So the IDF has now admitted, we screwed up. Yeah. But that was just another bridge too far. It's not like the Flower Massacre was enough, and it's just gone on too long.
Right.
And that seems to be the catalyst.
Last time, yeah.
So
the response to all this is the critics of the people that bring this up are now committing blood libel. This is what they call it, right? And blood libel means that you are accusing this particular group of participating in a violent or murderous act, which is libelous, right? So it's a blood libel. And, I don't know how much you're following these anti-hate speech laws that are getting passed through the various states. And blood libel is part of the language of these anti-hate speech laws. So it's almost like they're going through a very assiduous process to insulate themselves from any criticism whatsoever.
Yeah, that's all they got. It's really all they got. That's really all they've got.
Yeah, and people are waking up to this. I mean, there was
you're just firing Candace Owens from this Daily Wire.
Well, that's the trigger event, right? That was the trigger event.
Yeah, but that doesn't work because she's just going to go off and have a greater voice. I mean, it's not really working except for the suppression, and the suppression doesn't work. So they have to come knocking on your door.
Well, to give you an example, there's a pretty famous comedian named Andrew Schulman who was extremely critical of Kanye when Kanye was kind of losing his mind and playing the newscaster role on the movie Network, right? Like that's who Kanye was. Like, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. Peter Finch. And he came out and did a show with this comedy podcast. And, Andrew Schulman is Jewish, right? He's Jewish. And again, a fierce critic of Kanye West. And he went all in on Ben Shapiro, right? He went all in on the hypocrisy and the double standard of speech that they're really trying to lay out here. And I thought, well, this is really interesting. When you have a house divided in that world, right, that's when things get real spicy. And I don't think it's going away. We're going to get into some of that today, and we're going to try to connect some dots between the violence and the deaths that are happening in various parts of the world. And not only human deaths, but animal deaths as well. If you look at the title of the show, it's called Welcome to the Killing Machine. And we're going to try to connect some dots here to give people an understanding about where we are, sort of on this path with our shared journey. But before we do that, I have a funny story to share. And I know that the last time we kind of got into small talk, we got barked at, but I gotta share the story. So today I was at the local market and I was filling about 3 5-gallon jugs of water at their water machine. And there's this woman who came up to me and she said, where was I? I was in line to get change so I could use the change for the machine. And she was at least my age or maybe slightly older. She says, "What are those?" I said, they're water jugs or water containers. Well, what do you do with them? I'm like, she was serious. I said, well,
she's got a lot of faith in the system. Huh?
I said, you basically fill them up and then you take water out of them so you could use them. Well, how do you do that? Do you hook it up to your faucet or something like that? I swear to God. I'm like, no, there's an urn and you put it on top of the urn and there's a little spigot on the urn.
I thought all Texans were sort of self-sufficient.
She said, oh, well, I just have a water pitcher at home. And I just fill my water pitcher. Like, that's fine. But this woman, I mean, this speaks in some ways. And she seemed like a nice lady. At least she talked to me. But it speaks to sort of the oblivious nature of humanity, right? Like, somebody who's lived at least 65 years has never seen, noticed, or even used one of these plastic water jugs. I'm like, is this the world we're really living in here? Are people that asleep? I mean, it's mind-blowing.
I guess I'm kind of the way I am, is I'm totally aware of, the potential for infrastructure breakdown, cyber terror. I kind of almost have nightmares about it, but then I really don't do anything about it. I don't go out and get a bunch of jugs and fill it with water.
Well, I normally have them, right? So it's not a big deal.
You got the room for them.
I just made sure I filled them up. That's all. I think I've got about 5 of them. So again, one more little bit of business here before we jump in. So Giacchino D'Angelo posted that they had an earthquake in New Jersey today, 4.8.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, people started to text me, not just New Jersey, Philadelphia. Sandra Jack Shaw from Massachusetts felt it, and she sent me a text, and it's like, oh boy, here we go, coming to the eclipse, and the Earth is rocking and rolling.
Let me swing back a little bit more to this Middle East situation. It's a couple of key points.
All right, let's get into it.
The other item was, of course, that they attacked the Iranian embassy in Damascus,
right,
and killed 58 people. That's serious. That's serious stuff.
That's an act of war.
Yeah, and that, I don't think that helped either. On top of they've just been. I hate to say it, I kind of feel sorry for Israelis. They're just so poorly led and they're so fanatical, and they've really dug themselves into a grave. They really are, and they need to have people like maybe even me come to their rescue. I don't like them at all, but I'm willing to try to rescue them from their fate, because I think it's coming. And then on top of it, about an hour ago, I saw an item where the United States has worked out an agreement with Iran that as long as you don't attack American bases, go ahead and hammer Israel.
Yeah, it feels like we're well on our way to World War III here, which is
just go for it. Go for it. So something's going on within the Zog.
Well,
and
this
if
is
you
the
think
killing
about
machine.
it, let me just give you my theory. This is the killing machine. Something's going on within the Zog where they're dragging the United States down, and maybe there's somebody in the system that is just kind of looking at this and saying, now's the time for us to move. Because this is so extreme in terms of the Israelis' behavior that we can kind of come out in the open and start to make certain arrangements. Maybe they're pushing the buttons within the administration, and somebody is saying, go for it, Iran. Now, is it a trap? Are they trying to entrap Iran into an act of war against?
Well, that's what they did with Saddam Hussein, right? I mean, basically Saddam Hussein was getting slam drilled by the Kuwaitis, went to April Glaspie, who was the envoy diplomat there on the ground in Iraq. And he said, hey, look, these guys are slam drilling into our oil reserves. And, we've told them to stop. They haven't. And we're going to defend our boundaries.
And she said, go ahead.
And April Glaspie said, go ahead. And he did. And then look what happened. Right? It was a trap.
That's right. I'm trying to get an optimistic spin on something for a change, because I tend to be so pessimistic that I try to look at the glass half full. That maybe there's some white hats in there that are trying to bring this thing to a head in a certain way, and then just say to Israel, well, you didn't even notify us that you were attacking this embassy. You attacked our people on the ground and the humanitarian column. What do you want us to do? We're not going to defend you on this. Yeah. And just give them a lesson. But the Zog is pretty strong, and there's a lot of deception, make war by deception there, that this is really a delicate moment. And I'm sure the Iranians are considering this, but they kind of have to retaliate. And there's people, I guess they've got the people in Israel in a panic because they kind of know that the Iranians got the real stuff. They're hoarding and going, clearing out the shelves.
Well, the relationship with the United States and Iran has been a very, how do I say this, covert relationship for a very long time. The same group that is in power now was essentially installed by the United States with the fall of the Shah of Iran, right? The United States facilitated that coup so that Khomeini would be able to take over, and they could essentially have a almost, Islamic sort of puppet state to kind of rule over this country that was rapidly accelerating into the 20th century, which is what happened. So the United States has had this very odd and covert relationship with Iran for a very long time. And I don't believe that they view Iran as a rogue state at all. During the Obama administration, Iran was rewarded handsomely with billions of dollars. And it was kind of a, hey, we'll pay you billions of dollars so you slow your roll with your nuclear program, right? That was, the whole idea. And then Trump comes in, who, of course, is very loyal to Israel, and then changes that relationship. And I think piles on more sanctions. And I think he either takes back some of the money, or I don't know what the full fiduciary compensation.
Well, he's carrying out Israeli interests. He's
right. He is, but we've always had this very weird covert relationship with Iran and moving people in and out. First, it was Mossad for the Shah, then it was the Shah, and then it was Khomeini for the Shah. And I don't think that Iran is this isolated rogue nation in the way that it's being portrayed. The other thing with Iran is that it has the largest number of Jews outside of Israel than any other country. So there's a huge Jewish contingency.
And they're loyal. They're pretty much loyal to the regime.
So there's a lot of really weird mixed signals here. And, it wouldn't surprise me if there's, double, triple, quadruple crossing going on. I mean, that was the one thing that the Shah of Iran talked about when they were, phasing him out and staging a coup. And he told this to Nixon, and he said that he would never be able to get a straight answer from the United States. He would one day he would be reassured that they were supporting him, that they were behind him, and then the next day he would read something in the paper that would contradict it. So he never really knew where he stood with Carter or the U.S. government, because there are all these conflicting streams of information. And I think that that's deliberate, because it confuses people. And, when there's that level of chaos, they could move things around any way they want, right?
Well, if you're running U.S. foreign policy intelligently, and you're trying to make a recover from the deep hole that's been dug here, dragging the United States down, then you can signal to Iran, go ahead and hammer them. While you're hammering them, put on a good display of your missile technology and show us your stuff. Kind of rattle the world. Like boom, 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 boom. Boy, these are, and then you get the media talking about, wow, these Iranians have really developed some amazing weaponry that kind of evens the playing field in the Middle East and shows that Iran will strike if provoked this way. And then the United States fails to respond, and then Israel really gets a message at that point, and you can start trying to steer them back from the abyss that they're entering, because they're entering the abyss. We've been talking about
they are entering the abyss, and I don't think we can rule out the whole idea of a false flag. I mean, that's the other thing, and they could launch a missile somewhere from the direction
claim it's Iran,
right, and then it could hit like a secondary or tertiary target. Let's say it doesn't hit Tel Aviv, let's say it doesn't hit Jerusalem, but some city that's got, I don't know, maybe 25,000 people or something like that. And now all of a sudden you have the pretext for an escalated conflict and war. We've seen this time and time again. Most of the great wars are started under the auspice of a false flag, right? So we have to take that into account. I mean, there's just so many things that are happening here. And at the same time, you have a government that is clearly and blatantly participating in a form of quote unquote self-defense that often crosses lines of what's defined as self-defense. And I'm putting this mildly for the channel.
Well, the other thing that's happened is that on the mainstream media, like MSNBC, I gave you two examples in the DM. We could maybe look at them, or I can just describe them. It doesn't really matter. But the whole rhetoric was changed. So you're getting these experts from think tanks and from, credible characters that these mainstream media sources that bring on, the CNNs and like that. And they're basically saying we need to cut off the military aid and put on sanctions. So they're sending out very, very strong signals to Israel, trying to do it that way.
Well, they've got a real problem on their hands.
A week ago, I learned that the U.S. has sent Israel like a bunch of 2,000-pound bombs.
They have, excuse me, they being the Obama administration, the Biden administration have a real problem on their hands, because the majority of their voters are neoliberals. And they are way more pro-Palestinian than they are pro-Israeli. Right? Where you run into the pro-Israeli camp is on the right. And you have the kind of the hardcore Christian right Zionists. So the I keep saying Obama, Biden, it's a Freudian slip, but the Biden camp, as we creep up on whatever this election is going to look like, they've got an issue, because their electorate does not align with what's happening in the Middle East. So that is a big fissure. Now, there's donors, on both sides, and a lot of times big donors will donate with both parties and both platforms, but there are other donors that are specifically party-centric. And, I think that that's also what they're looking at. Or, how much money are they going to be able to take from these donors?
Well, they've already donated a lot. They've donated a lot to Biden already. So if Biden or somebody behind Biden is trying to change the messaging to try to bring Israel back from the abyss that they're self-inflicting on themselves with a genocide and this outrageous behavior of bombing embassies, killing Biden's people on the ground, and Lord knows what else, to change the messaging. But see, I kind of see the Zog. I think you can change the messaging and you can send somebody out to change the message, but within the system of the United States are so many Zionists and so many agents in Sineum that they can flip a switch and say, yeah, send those 2,000-pound bombs to Israel, and nobody even knows about it. It's all done in secret. So it seems like it's in contrast. Send them 2,000-pound bombs, which are non-guided weaponry for Rafah, obviously, for more genocide, versus the messaging of telling Iran, go ahead and hit them. Very interesting. Maybe I'm not deep enough into the wormholes of how this stuff really works and how they're thinking, but
it feels like kind of a wild dog. And nobody can really contain, the wild dog. And Nixon talks about, the madman theory, right? And how that was a strategy that he and Henry Kissinger employed during the Vietnam War. And to a large extent, it actually worked with Nixon, when Nixon said, look, with the exception of, nuclear arms, nothing's off the table now. Right. And that's when they started to go into Cambodia and deep into North Vietnam and start their bombing campaigns. And then once they started to do that, immediately the North Vietnamese returned to the negotiating table in Paris with Kissinger, because they thought they could wait the war out, and that there was enough conflict and strife at home, and that Hubert Humphrey was going to win the presidency and just be a continuation of the Johnson.
But I don't know the United States has ever had a mad dog ally to the extent of Israel.
But I'm using the analogy of the mad dog with the country that we're talking about. They are the mad dog, or they are the madman. It's a madman theory. Right. And when you have a madman theory, they're capable of anything. So when they're capable of anything, that means everybody else is kind of walking on eggshells. And I think that's what we're dealing with here, because we've seen since October that these are armed forces that will resort to just about anything in order to accomplish their goal. To me, that is the madman theory in action. So I don't know how you deal with that, unless you have, the only way that you could contain this really is if you had the United States, Russia, and China all be on the same page and all circle the wagons and say, not acceptable. But they can't do that because all three of these countries are compromised and leveraged. And ultimately, they may be a part of a much larger plan in any way. So we're in really, choppy water here. Like this is choppy water at high seas.
Yeah, and I sent you an item on, as I was kind of looking how the Zog works. And you got a guy like Senator Menendez. Probably not too many people know much about him. 3-term senator from New Jersey.
That was the guy that they tried to get out with was it the corruption or the porn stuff? What was it?
Kind of both.
Yeah,
but they got the goods on him, but they also pay him very well. So he's like the number one senator receiving funds from the APAC, and he's just so happens by some strange coincidence to be the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, or the leading minority member now.
Right.
That's pretty powerful. That's where you get these. That's where they slip things through the back door.
Absolutely. I mean,
and nobody can really track it. You can track it, but you got to know what's going on, and you got to really know how the system works, because you can pick up the phone to some other plant that they have somewhere, some other agent, and say, I understand you have some extra 2,000-pound bombs. Send them to Israel for their use. And then that's how you just find yourself in deep doo-doo, because nobody's really looking out for the larger interest of the United States or the world. It's just all corrupt dealings.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that's been a theme here, ever since 2024 started, is that, people are starting to understand. You're starting to kind of see behind the veil a little bit, and what's really going on. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just the way it is, right? Like today with that woman with the water bottle, she can't unsee that water bottle anymore.
You can also talk about it and start to deflect this blood libel accusation. I mean, it's just like, really? That's all you got at this stage? That's all you got?
Well, it seems rather desperate, doesn't it?
It doesn't hold water anymore. I mean, maybe a few years ago it did, but the Israelis have demonstrated who they are to the whole world, anybody that's got eyes.
Well, it's overplayed. I mean, you can only cry wolf so many times. And then all of a sudden people just don't pay attention anymore.
And then finally somebody says, go ahead and signals to Iran, go ahead. You didn't tell us that you were going to attack this Iranian embassy. You inflamed the situation. Screw you. Go ahead, Iran. That to me seems like a sensible approach. It's kind of a gamble.
That starts World War III. I'm telling you right now, it starts World War III.
Only if the United States comes in and goes after Iran. So if it's an entrapment, then that's World War III.
Yeah, I think because we live. Look, there are a lot of people who have done deep dives and research into not just Israel, but I'll use this country as an example. World War II and Pearl Harbor. And they knew that Pearl Harbor was going to happen. They knew it was coming, right? And what did they do? They chose to do nothing. And so they sacrificed all those ships and all those men so that they could get into a war with Japan and then take over the shipping routes and the shipping line of the Pacific and rule the Pacific. So they deemed that a credible trade-off, right? Like, okay, so we'll lose a couple thousand men, we'll lose some ships. We can always rebuild them. But at the end of the day, we get into a war, we win the war, we control the Pacific theater. Like, that's just one example. Countries will.
That's a big example.
That has
parallel to what we're talking about.
Yeah, we'll sacrifice their own in order to.
So we'll lure Iran into giving them the green light to go ahead and get some revenge, and then we'll say, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, which one of these clips do you want to play in the queue? We've got the Cuds Network, Sam Parker, Gen X Girl, Lucas Gage, Dylan Williams, World Goyim Unite, Khaled El Gindi. Which one?
We can just kind of just jump around a little bit, but
why don't we start with this one with his name is Yuval Abraham from the Cuds Network. And I'm going to read the headline here of the tweet. He's an Israeli journalist, so let's put that on the table here. He's an Israeli journalist. Yuval Abraham.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is good. Go ahead. Yeah, this is interesting.
Reveals how Israel uses AI technology, Lavender, despite a high error rate that results in massive civilian casualties. So let's see what he has to say and what he brings to our conversation. So here we go.
Not hearing it.
Nope.
Okay. Okay.
Lavender is an AI-based system to create human targets, to mark them. So what it did, it at its peak, according to sources who have used it, it managed to mark 37,000 Palestinians in Gaza as suspected low-level Hamas or jihad militants. Now, the way it works is, for people who don't know, like the machine scanned most of the population in Gaza, surveilling information, and it gave each individual a rating between 1 to 100 based on how likely the machine thought that individual belonged to a military wing. It has a list of indicative features, which are really small signs that could be like somebody is in a WhatsApp group with a militant, or somebody that replaces phones all the time, that raise or lower your rating. Now, sources said, and this is very, very important, that this machine, when they were using it, the IDF knew that in approximately 10% of the cases, it was making what was regarded as errors. So it was marking people who were complete civilians or had a very loose connection to Hamas. Is an automatic system that looks for these targets when they enter their family houses. So it scans thousands of people that were marked by Lavender, by the AI machine, and it alerts the intelligence officers the moment they enter their house. And the Israeli military, according to numerous sources, carried out a policy of bombing these people using unguided missiles when they were in the most civilian spaces, when they were inside family houses, collapsing the house on itself and killing often, according to sources, the predetermined limit was up to 20 Palestinian civilians at the beginning of the war per AI-marked junior suspected Hamas operative.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the 10% error is low, because in other words, the argument has been made that Hamas has been hiding behind human shields, civilians.
Yeah.
Well, this shows what was really going on is that they had these guys marked and raided. And, even if a real hardcore Hamas member goes into a house or goes into a store, or, they live in the community, right?
Yeah.
So, they would use that's their excuse to kill civilians, anybody even close to this guy. I mean, how would you like to live? How do you like to live in a world where you're totally innocent, you're some grandma somewhere, and somebody in the neighborhood happens to be a hardcore jihadist, and then they target him right when you're going into the restaurant or a building with them and kill you? That's how they've racked up all these civilian casualties. Very scientific. I didn't realize it was so scientific before.
Did you say scientific?
Yeah, scientific. Scientific, yes.
Cynically, they're just called collateral damage.
Yeah, with a scientific AI component to it.
No, the people who die because they're in the wrong area, they're
next
just collateral damage.
Next to a low-level jihadist. They even use the term low level. So 38,000 people have been identified as this, quasi jihadist or jihadist, Hamas.
When watching that video, it gets right back to the title of the show. Welcome to the Killing Machine.
Yeah.
Now we have this AI. We have this AI component that is profiling people, making decisions based on averages, percentages, biometric markers, and clearly in the decision-making process. So not only are we dealing with this kind of egregore of a killing machine, but now we've got AI involved, which is literally deployed as a killing machine. And that is a terrifying thought.
Yeah. Think how this can be extended. So let's say you have a list of blood libelists around the world. You're ranking blood libelists. In other words, people that speak truth to power. And then you decide to start assassinating them in various methods, using these little tiny drones, right, where you can get very targeted, or you just start whaling on whole communities, and sending Apache helicopters over and just start killing people in mass. That could be extended all over the world,
Yeah, I mean, at what point?
What if you get a revolution in the United States, or you get some kind of like a civil war?
Well, I think if we go into a kinetic hot theater around World War III initiated by Iran, I guarantee you there'll be a civil war in the United States.
Yeah, right. If you get into a war situation,
because the government here will have to side with a side, right, and will deploy whatever they need to deploy, whether it's whatever arms we have left, whether it's reinstating the draft, and there are people that are not going to be down with it. So you're going to have a populace that is not going to be in agreement with this country's effort.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lot of people that would consider it an unjust war, possibly fighting on the wrong side, not taking the Israeli line. Well, that's your blood libelous. So you can extend this jihad routine they're doing in Gaza.
It's a very malleable term.
Yeah. You can do the same thing with just the American people.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's see that. What else you loaded up here? Let me get back into your queue. Looks like this next one, we've talked about this before, but I think people that are new to the conversation need to be reacquainted with it. And that is the close association and ties between the ADL and the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
And how closely the FBI is in terms of training and information transference and all that stuff. So
yeah, this goes back. This actually started a long time ago, or Meyer Lansky.
And this guy's a senator, Sam Parker.
No, he's just he's got a kind of.
He ran for U.S. Senate. Okay.
Yeah, he's a blood libelist.
He's a blood libelist. He's got 120,000 followers.
Yeah, well,
he's got a blue check. All right, what does Sam have to say? Meanwhile, the FBI consistently protects criminals and corruption instead of busting them. It's time for the FBI to.
Well, the ADL brags themselves how they train FBI agents and run them through special courses, and probably have a lot of say in who gets hired as an FBI agent.
Well, we've looked at that. They have these training seminars that are ongoing,
and police.
Yeah,
and it goes back to Meyer Lansky having the goods over J. Edgar Hoover, because J. Edgar Hoover was a cross-dresser and homosexual.
Right.
So they had him really compromised. And that's how they do it.
So let's just go through the list here, and they're all down the memory hole in a lot of ways. Stimulus heist, which happened during the Trump administration. Huge transference of wealth. Huge.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious, never resolved. Dead BP agent, what is that? British Petroleum, I guess. Attorney General Holder in contempt. Obamacare. Which,
you notice that historically there's been a lot of weapons type stuff. That's what Fast and Furious was. Moving weapons around.
Absolutely.
And that's the job of the FBI and the ATF is to control that kind of stuff. And
by the way, these are not news stories or incidents that don't have any meat on their bones. A lot of these things have been, exhumed, and it's like, yeah, they've admitted to it, like spying on Fox News, spying on journalists, the IRS targeting the GOP. That was during Obama. Clinton Foundation spying on allies, Israel relations, Israeli racism cases, ISIS founding, which is a big one. Union kickbacks, Hillary's email server, of course, minority farm funding.
I would add things that aren't even on this list, like Oklahoma City and Waco.
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly
that's really down the water. That's really dark stuff there.
Yeah. The Bergdahl Trader case. I'm not familiar with that. Are you? The Bergdahl Trader case?
Yeah, I actually wrote an article about it, but I kind of forget the details.
Iran nuke deal, EPA failures, GSA massive waste. Solyndra, well, that was a huge scandal. There was a huge money laundering scandal.
Right.
And I was in the Bay Area where they opened that Solyndra plant. And they knew that they just could not compete with the Chinese at a price point for the what was it? It was either the solar cells or it was the conductors. This, like, the Chinese were just like blowing them out of the water with the price point. So there was no way that the company would ever be able to turn a profit.
Right.
And yet they invested heavily in it, and it's like a money laundering operation. Secret Service failures, government held hostage.
Elections, not really kind of reinforcing, investigating election fraud, kind of standing down the last guy under Trump.
Right.
His pick for attorney general and FBI and the FBI. But at that time, the FBI was really heavily infiltrated.
Yeah. So
how about the JFK assassination?
Well, geez. I mean, how many
9/11? Not even on the list.
Yeah. How many unsolved mysteries are we dealing with here? This is like Robert Stack on steroids. And it's just that's the most frustrating part, is there's never any closure. That is to me, that's the most frustrating part.
If you want to kind of read an interesting article of mine, I think a very good article and good sources. The Zapruder film, the fate of the Zapruder film, how it's wormed its way through the system, got kind of waylaid. It's a real mystery. Netflix should do this one, but they can't because it just points to too many. Because Zapruder was a Jewish Zionism.
Yep. Yeah. Here's
I guess in your blood libel. I guess in your blood libel category.
Oh yeah, heavily. Here's your Menendez piece that you were talking about, which I found. This is from Gen X Girl. Pro-Israel $1 Million Club member Senator Menendez is pro-Israel lobby's #1 recipient, $2.5 million in exchange for billions to that flag. Bob was arrested by DOJ on bribery charges. Didn't they find a bunch of gold bars in his house and shit like that?
Yeah. And his kind of wife's involved in a bunch of this stuff too.
So he got $2.5 million from.
Have you ever seen a picture of his wife?
No, does she fit the profile?
Oh my God. She's looks like a mafia wife.
She looks a little hard.
She doesn't really look hard. She's kind of, I guess you could say, hot looking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's got kind of a hot wife.
Well, that does not fit the profile of like the Chuck Schumer wife.
No. Menendez has got a hot wife.
All right, let's see Married to the Mob here. Hold on. Oh, okay. Hot is she definitely looks, it's kind of scary.
Can you put her picture up?
Yeah, sure. I'm
and she's involved. She's involved in this stuff. She's an agent.
All right, hold on.
I don't know where he dug her up from.
Where is this? It's over here. Okay.
These people form alliances. They have. This is just not some random selection.
I mean, I am a lover of females in the
there you go.
Female form. I don't want to be disrespectful, but
no, I know.
It's a little rough.
She's big, tall, Amazon woman.
She is a big woman.
Amazon woman.
He's big too, but in the other direction.
Well, he's portly, but she's hot. I gotta be honest with you. I consider her hot because I like kind of big Amazon women like this.
All right.
This is
all you single Amazonians out there, pay attention to Russ. Oh, how about that, Russ? You like that picture?
Okay, here you go. Menendez's wife sold 400,000 in gold bars months before facing federal probe. There's stories like that.
I hate it.
She's the gold bar connection.
She's the gold bar connection.
Yeah, so I think that she's the kind of almost like the bag lady,
right?
You know, Hunter Biden is the bag man for Biden, and I think she's the bag lady for Menendez.
Let's see. Let me see if we have any other stunning pictures of Mrs. Menendez. All right, there they are on the steps of the White House.
But it's just
a dutiful American servant.
Yeah, total corruption.
And the good woman behind him. I guess that's when she was a bit younger, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think she's quite a bit younger than him. I think that was probably fairly.
Oh, there's the gold bars.
Yeah, they were trying to bribe a bunch of Egyptian officials.
What kind of family corruption business here? Is that what's going on?
Well, they've also worked at trying to keep Egypt in line, because Egypt has tendency to kind of go the Muslim Brotherhood route, and so they want to make sure the officials that are running Egypt are on board Israel's stuff. So they got involved in that, and there was a bribery case involving Egyptian officials who were being paid off.
I could see that she works with Jill Biden's stylist.
Well, look how tall she is.
There's the $400,000 in gold bars.
I'll tell you one thing, Robert Menendez. He doesn't really look like he's in shape for her.
I don't think so. I don't think so. There she is, lady in red. All right, that's what's her name? What's her first name? His wife and died. These people just skip, man. I mean, I think if you pay enough dues, you're protected. And this is what I think happens.
Yeah, it's just Zog. It's just Representative Zog, high level Zog.
Yeah, here's that Egyptian piece you were talking about. What he didn't say was that for 2 years prior, two prior years, the woman who was then his girlfriend was often by his side when he met with Egyptian officials to discuss sensitive topics, including.
Yeah, exactly. His girlfriend. That's interesting. She's an agent. God, I wonder if there's a Wikipedia on there. I wonder what her ethnic background is.
She's got 2 names. Apparently, one of her names is Arslanian, right? That's one of her names, and another name is Nadine. So people have 2 names or usually have some kind of dual identity or spy thing going on. Arslanian, a registered Republican. This is just getting weirder the more I look at it.
Well, he's a Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll fucking vote for anybody as long as the money's there. He's only a Democrat by name. Arslanian reportedly met Menendez, 69, at an International House of Pancakes restaurant.
Really?
You can't. What was she, the waitress?
Walks up to her and says, "Hi, my name is Bob. I like. Hi, my name is Bob. I like Amazon women."
Did she see them?
Do you like cowboys?
How about this table over here?
Wonder what kind of a line he worked on her.
God.
Hi, I'm Bob. I'm a United States Senator.
Yeah.
Oh, sit down, Bob.
And he looks at her. He says, "I'll take the double stack." I'm sorry. We have to have a little bit of humor here. I know we're talking about.
Well, this is educational humor.
Yeah.
But it's all talk about Zog. That's just blood libel. There's no such thing as Zog. This is just blood libel.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. Steve says at IHOP tripping balls at 2 a.m.
2 a.m. at IHOP.
Yeah. It's kind of a partier insider. All right. Let's see what else we have going on here in your chat. All right, now we're going to get into some heavy territory. Okay, this is the heavy zone. All right, this is if people don't know what a synonym is, you're about to find out. And this is Lucas Gage, who is giving you sort of the insight. Russ, you want to talk about this concept of the synonym?
Well, you can kind of read the thing there on them. They'll see I think that's like a Wikipedia. It's pretty accurate.
So it's in Wikipedia, so it must be true, right?
This has been around a long time. I mean, this is the core of their system. These
are like unofficial operatives, is what they are.
Official and unofficial, but mostly it means unofficial. So they have a big intelligence network. I think it's based out of Frankism, the old Frankist era.
Oh yeah.
Where Rothschild sort of basically got a hold of the Frankist network.
Yeah.
And the Frankists were really into spying and exchange of information and soft information, hard information, things that they could use. And Rothschild could use it. And he really used it to his advantage to build up a financial empire. And so sometimes these people they get a call and we want you to go do something, and they won't even know. They don't even ask questions. They don't even know what it's about.
Right.
Zapruder, I think Zapruder is a good example. We need to have you go take a picture.
You need to go take your camera.
Yeah.
Down to Dealey Plaza today. And
right. And take these pictures and don't really ask any more questions and just hand the thing over to an FBI agent in the story. That's kind of what happened.
So let's just go over this again. This is Wikipedia, a trusted source of information. Synonym are Jews who live outside of Israel and often hold citizenships of countries they reside in, but who volunteer or are recruited clandestinely by Mossad to assist with their operations. The word synonym is Hebrew for assisters. The term synonym itself is plural, with a single one being a scion. Scion. Again, there's that word scion. Former Mossad officer Victor Ostrovsky wrote extensively about activities of the synonym, as has Gordon Thomas. According to Ostrovsky, Gordon Thomas says the synonym provide assistance of various kinds to Mossad officers operating in foreign countries.
So Ostrovsky is a Jewish source, former Mossad.
He got out of the Mossad. He's like the Mossad version of Yuri Bezmenov, right? That's who he is. This assistance can include facilitating medical care, money, logistics, and even overt intelligence gathering. They can be judges, court clerks, expert witnesses, child protective service workers. I mean, the thought of this is pretty harrowing, actually. Assistant district attorneys, police officers, or anyone with a great degree of power over people's lives, and will do anything at the behest of Mossad case officers known as, Katsa, for the state of Israel against its enemies or those perceived to be unfavorable politically to Israeli policy. Synonym are not paid and are only reimbursed for their expenses.
Well, they got to be busy now because Israel is really under the gun. So
very much so. The harsh Klieg lights are on Israel right now. So I'm sure that there are plenty of expense reports coming in. So all right, now we go a little bit deeper into that thread. We have this piece here, which is a pretty significant article that we have one part of. Maybe we just summarize it instead of going through the whole thing. But it backs up what you were saying about this basically volunteerism system that is involved in intelligence gathering and a number of other things. So this is from Decentralized Party, got a blue check there. And this is an actual quote from Benjamin Netanyahu. We're not making anything up here. I know what America is. America is the thing you can move very easily, move it in the right direction. So again, this gets into this whole concept of the SINM and the unofficial operative network, right? And this talks about Ostrovsky's book, By Way of Deception, in which the SINM show up, and he explains their role. He goes a little bit further. Car rental agency operators can rent vehicles without completing the necessary paperwork. That's interesting. Allowing for discreet transportation. Apartment managers can provide housing without drawing attention, ensuring a safe base of operations for Mossad agents. Bank owners and managers can assist in acquiring, exchanging, transferring, or laundering money.
Yeah, the Mossad assassination network is called Sin Bet, and they have basically openly said that they're going all over the world to quote unquote get the enemies of Israel. And
so this is a lot more detailed than the generalized list that's on the Wikipedia page, and it really gets into Katz's Bodlum. This is interesting. It translates to slaves in Hebrew. Young Israeli students or individuals who are employed by Mossad to run errands, perform chores for agents. They're not allowed to ask questions or only given information on a need-to-know basis. In return, they can live rent-free in Mossad safe houses, although they must move out when agents move in. They're not permitted to bring friends into the safe house and remain responsible for shopping, cleaning, and laundry for the. So Jonathan Pollard is an example that they come up with here. And let's just read through this. In 1986, Jonathan Pollard, an Israeli American, was arrested for spying on behalf of Israel. At first, Tel Aviv claimed that he was not an Israeli agent, but part of a rogue operation. However, 12 years later, they admitted that he had been working for them the entire time he was stealing U.S. military secrets. Between 1981 and 1985, Pollard provided Israel with approximately 360 cubic feet. That's a lot of feet, Russ.
Yep.
Of classified documents containing vital intelligence on Soviet arms, shipments, Pakistani nuclear weapons, Libyan air defense systems, and other information that Israel sought to advance its geopolitical agenda. Pollard took more than 1 million documents from his office for copying by his Israeli handler.
How do you even get away with that? I mean, you've got to almost sort of have to have other people on the inside.
Absolutely. The stolen classified materials were eventually transferred to the Soviets in exchange for the immigration of Russian Jews. This espionage operation had significant impact on the Cold War, potentially negating a substantial portion of the $20 trillion in U.S. Cold War defense outlays from 48 to 89. Pollard was sentenced to life in prison. We got a freeze on the screen. While Israel faced no consequences.
And Pollard was released. It was one of the last acts of Trump is to pardon
them.
Yeah, right. The last day of his administration. Yeah,
all right.
List of people pardoned.
So I'm going to have to duck out and come back. So don't go away. But I have a quick anecdote about Jonathan Pollard. There was a woman who used to follow the podcast and the chat. I don't know whatever happened to her. She's really cool. But her husband worked for the FBI and was there when they arrested Jonathan Pollard. So he was part of the team that arrested Jonathan Pollard. And she told me, and this is a true story, right? She told me that when they arrested him, he shit his pants. Literally, he shit his pants. So that was the impact of, he knew what he had done and he knew what he was in for, because he had the.
He's a national hero in Israel.
Well, he literally shit his pants.
They brought him back to Israel and they got him pardoned.
Yeah,
Netanyahu himself went out and greeted him. They got him kind of, very nice.
Basically, he got released during the Trump administration.
Yep.
And then when Trump left, he basically said, "Okay, you're pardoned. which meant that he could leave the country.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened. All right, let me just do a quick exit and re-enter, and I'll be right back. All right. For our weekly tap out and tap in. All right, let's see what else Russ is queued up here. Okay. So here we go. Now we're looking at what you were talking about at the beginning of the stream, which is the next steps that theoretically the U.S. is going to take here. This is what the dam breaking on unconditional U.S. backing for Israel's actions look like. Mainstream bipartisan expert consensus that Israel must face real consequences for repeatedly violating Palestinian rights, international law, and U.S. red lines.
Yeah, Good Morning Joe. I mean, he's kind of a Zionist. He's even doing it. So you even got some Zionists that are kind of involved in this little exercise.
Oh, this is Richard Haas. Wow. All right. So Richard Haas is one of these guys that is like a point guard for the New World Order, right? That's his role. His policy,
Foreign Relations Council,
right? His ideas are all about shaping this idea of a one world government. So
let's watch what he has to say, because it gives everybody a clue what the narrative is developing into.
All right, here we go.
See what he has to say.
How upset we are while we hemorrhage billions of dollars.
It's the worst of all worlds right now for the president. The criticism looks increasingly empty. It's 6 months. We're reaching the 6-month milestone of this war. That's one fact to begin with. And two things have happened in the last few days. One is these attacks are continuing, and yet so are U.S. arms transfers to Israel without conditions. They've been going on for 6 months. Why does Israel need 2,000-pound bombs to be used in high-density populated areas? Then, 10 days ago, what does Israel do? It expropriates 2,000 acres of land in the West Bank for settlement construction. Where is the White House reaction to that? That is how you undo even the possibility, Joe was talking about it, of one day getting to a two-state solution. If you're going to have a Palestinian state, the last I checked, states are built on territory. If the territory isn't there to build it on, you can talk about two states till the cows come home. You don't have it. Where's the administration reaction to that? So at some point, the words become empty. And the Biden administration is very close to having reached a point where their criticism of Israel is too much for the same people who criticize Chuck Schumer, but it's not nearly enough to affect the course of what is going on. That is the worst of all possible worlds.
It looks weak and impotent. You were in the HW administration at the State Department.
At the White House.
At the White House. What would James Baker have done? And seriously, that's what we should be asking ourselves, because that was a moment when we were a diplomatic superpower.
So we confronted Israel. And if you remember at the time, Israel was subsidizing people leaving the Soviet Union, and they were going into the occupied territories. We basically said to Israel, we'll help these people to get out of the Soviet Union, but we're not going to subsidize. They're going into the West Bank. That forecloses options. We understand you may not have a Palestinian partner today, but we want to preserve the option for the day when we might be. And the administration basically said to the Israelis, you have a choice. They made their choices, had economic consequences. This administration has got to have some teeth in it.
So, Richard, let me put it bluntly to you. Does Benjamin Netanyahu give a damn that Joe Biden is upset, frustrated, and outraged by what he's seeing? And if not, what would make him give a damn?
No, he doesn't. And indeed, increasingly, he's trying to position himself as someone in front of the Israeli body politic saying, you may not like me. You may think I made a mistake on October 7th, but I'm all that stands between you and American pressure. So he doesn't care. What would he care about? He would care about damaging the relationship with Israel's most important benefactor. And that would mean the United States, I'm sorry it's come to this, Willie, that we have to basically have some sanctioning of what Israel did. Not just the stuff in the UN. It's got to be conditioning arms deliveries. And it's got to be, I would think, some trade sanctions, for example, against goods coming out of West Bank settlements. Why should they be able to come here, for example,
they've already done
without
that.
certain tariffs or other economic penalties? We've got to basically, we can't have a policy based on persuading Israel. We have to.
So we have to ban the soda stream machines.
Right.
Here.
Yeah. This stupid stuff like that. Right.
Yeah. No soda stream.
Strong words again. And that's coming from the big mucky muck of the Foreign Relations Council.
Well, I think coming from Richard Haas, it means more than say coming from somebody inside the Biden administration. When you have somebody like that start to talk along those lines, and what's interesting is that he stresses a two-state solution, right? Like he believes that the Palestinians should have their own state. On the other side, you have this idea that there can be no two-state solution because if there's a two-state solution, it interferes with prophecy. And therefore, you cannot have the return of Jesus. You cannot have the rapture. You cannot have all the bells and whistles that go along with the second coming, because theoretically it violates scripture, right? So you basically have these two ideologies that want something very different geographically to exist in that region. And that's really I think the ultimate, arm wrestling match here is between the Christian Zionist right, who aid and abet the current regime because it neatly fits their biblical model. And then you have this other group who don't give a rat's ass about the biblical model and see it more from this idea of statehood and some sort of, geopolitical kind of
supremacy
fairness doctrine. And that's the real war. That's the real conflict.
Yeah, supremacy. But, the other ploy being there's kind of a good cop, bad cop routine. Yeah. So the idea is that they can just throw Netanyahu under the bus, and I don't know what they're waiting on that. That just goes on indefinitely. Throw him under the bus, and everything will be better. Well, that's not. I mean, Netanyahu represents the people of Israel. That's who they are.
Well, I mean, it's really that's a hard indictment, and I understand what you're saying, right? That's like Biden represents the people of the United States. That's who they are, and God forbid. And I, like that journalist, he's Israeli. I don't think Netanyahu represents him, but I understand what you're saying.
Well, most of the protests in Israel against Netanyahu revolve around free the hostages, not about the genocide particularly. I saw a very good show with this Greg Stoker. He had a former IDF soldier, Israeli, talking about this. And he just flat out said, he says, I wish there were more people like me, he said. There's not. And he was and he had very reasonable approach to everything. He says they're not. They're a bunch of fanatics.
I think the tide is turning. And I'll tell you where the Biden administration is really, really losing. And it is on the Black progressive front, right? The Black progressive voting front. And there are a number of shows and podcasts out there that kind of represent that demographic. And they are just, offering up scathing evidence and information around this whole thing. And, these are people that probably at one time were more likely aligned with the concept of Black Lives Matter. Maybe not to the extent that they would be today, but I guarantee you, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, they wouldn't have flinched at, being aligned with them. Now I think that they probably have a lot of circumspection, but that gives you an idea of sort of the political world that they come from. And they're all turning. They're all turning on what's going on there. So again, I think that this is very problematic for the Biden administration domestically with their voter base.
Oh yeah, but I mean, Biden's not good. Biden's nothing. He's just going to disappear. There's no way he's going to get past the convention. They could end up going to the convention and brokering some kind of a deal in the back room and replace him. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but Biden and Harris are gone. So he doesn't even count. I don't think he even enters the equation.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens because unless the conditions change, that demographic is not going to
of course not
alter their position.
And the guy gets older every day. He gets more feeble and senile every day that passes. It's a joke. I mean, the whole concept of Biden is one of the biggest jokes of all about America. One of my biggest.
It's all by design. It's all about demoralization.
Yeah,
he's put there for a reason.
Sure demoralizes me as an American.
Of course, that's part of the plan. It's a psychological operation for us to be the laughingstock of the world, and for the rest of us to look at each other and say, "How the fuck did this guy get here? And how the fuck did we get him out?" And dealing with the forces of inertia that go along with that. Like, where does that take you? Right? Oh, we'll just vote him out. Well, how well did that work last time? Not very well.
I even have my doubts about Trump making it to the election.
Well, I mean, so the flip side of Trump is he's about as pro-Israel as you can get, right? Trump has a fucking coin minted after him in Israel. He's got a train station named after him. And I mean, he got this big award from Israel, right? Like, Trump doesn't provide any solution to this dilemma.
No.
None.
Nope.
So
and that's demoralizing too.
But he's got better slogans and he's funnier. So at least we might have some humor.
At least he's improved his haircut. The guy has a nice look.
That's a real stretch. We got to get those glasses checked, man. I mean, first of all, your assessment of Bob Menendez's wife, and then the other is Trump's haircut. We got to get your scripts checked.
Here's my glasses. I got tape on them right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
You see it? I have tape on there. Got to get by that people.
Let's cut to the chase here, and then let's shift into the Riley Strain thing and try to connect this. And I know we've been a little bit jovial today, but we have to have some humor. But let's cut to this, which is really where, we come into this idea of the killing machine. And this is what you brought up earlier with basically telling Iran, yeah, go ahead. Do what you need to do. The U.S. will not interfere if Iran attacks Israel. Through a series of messages, this is Megatron, a trusted source on Twitter. Iran assured the Americans will not target U.S. facilities. And in turn, the U.S. says it will not get involved if Iran retaliates against Israel. That seems like a good deal. We won't fuck with you if you don't fuck with us. We'll just fuck with them. Israel carried out the attack in the Iranian embassy in Damascus without consulting the U.S.
You just don't do that kind of stuff. You got a very sensitive situation and you just kill 58 people at their embassy.
It's a really bad look, man.
It's a very bad optics and it's actionable.
Yeah. Have you ever listened to any of these Scott Ritter interviews?
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. I like McGregor too. Same thing. Judge Napolitano is his name.
Yeah, I'm not that high on him. He's okay.
Well, he brings these guests on though. He brings these.
So he lets his guests do the talking.
No, he's good. I'd take a look at him.
Okay. All right.
Mostly he shuts his mouth and lets these people talk.
So we have a continued series of deaths, assaults, altercations, attacks, the demolition of Gaza. It's an ongoing operation, which clearly resembles the actions of a killing machine, right? Something that doesn't really take into account, things like the 10% error in the programming of the profiling, right? So that's one kind of definition of this killing machine. And recently, and this is another part of your wheelhouse, Riley Strain, who had gone missing for about a month? Is that about right, Russ?
He was missing for about 3 weeks, 2 weeks. No, 2 weeks.
Okay, and
he's found on the 13th day or something like that, and he's sort of covered up by a log. And I've kind of looked at the Cumberland River, and I don't see any logs in there. I've looked at pictures of him, so just a log is placed on him 8 miles downstream, downriver, kind of next to a barge. Somebody kind of stumbled across him and pulled him out of the river. And he had no pants. He was wearing a belt. He wears a belt. He's kind of had a swimmer's build. He's a big, tall guy. He has a belt on his pants. And he's in his boxer shorts, but without his pants, no boots, size 15 cowboy boots, leather. That would be really hard to take out.
What? Size 15?
Yeah, he's a big guy, tall guy, skinny.
Well, that doesn't, what's interesting, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've read about the profile of a lot of the victims of the smiley face murders. That doesn't really fit the profile. Usually the profile is that they're
smaller. Yeah, that's
smaller,
true.
Right? Am I right?
Yep, that's true. Yeah, they kind of go for petite guys.
Right, guys that maybe can't handle themselves.
This is a little different, but he's kind of skinny.
Yeah.
But everything else matches up. The whole thing from start to finish, which we should probably just go through to give everybody a flavor.
I'm going to go to your article. You've got an article there. But this is a very interesting comment. And it's kind of at the top of the comments list. My son lives there and says anyone who doesn't understand that Riley was killed, robbed, and rolled into the river doesn't know Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I think he was the smiley face. Take him away. That's why they disappear for 13 days. They're taking him somewhere. And they're messing with him.
Right.
And typically they use a waterboarding. The other thing I was going to mention about the autopsy is no water in his lungs. That's pretty weird.
Well, so usually with the smiley face stuff, there is water in the lungs, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes there's not. I mean, it's just kind of like you can, but this one, there's no water in the lungs. And they can do that because they waterboard them and you can kind of control what goes into the water.
Okay. So good. Thanks for clarifying that. So
you can kind of, it's dry drowning, you choke people and just asphyxiate them.
But the enigma or the paradox is that he's found by the river with no water in his lungs, right?
Yeah, and no pants, and he was wearing a belt, no boots, no wallet, no phone. The phones are always missing in these cases because the phones is kind of where you can really track things, incoming calls, what was going on. Was he lured down there? But anyway, it kind of starts out, he gets kicked out of this bar called Luke's up in the main Nashville area. And I've never been to Nashville. I was kind of watching some of the footage on the street. Looks like kind of a fun place.
Well, it's the downtown music area is just loaded with people, loaded with bars. They've got a lot of these pedal carts with sound systems where you can pedal around and drink. I mean, Nashville's a party. It's a big
it looks like it.
Yeah.
So he's going in there from the University of Missouri with his fraternity brothers, and they go out. I guess they had dinner in one place, and they go over to this Luke's. And this guy's described as a Southern gentleman, never gets in trouble, not a big drinker, not a drug user. And for some unknown reason that still hasn't been explained, nearly a month later, he gets kicked out of this bar. And then they create a story, well, he was hitting on some girl. And my comment to that is, really? They're kicking guys out of bars for hitting on women now? I guess I was in the wrong generation. Good Lord.
If you hit on a man, you get a free drink.
So he gets removed from this bar. It's kind of early. It's 9:35. And he says, well, I'm going to go back to the hotel. But instead, he goes the opposite direction. Now, okay, it's still early. Maybe he wants to look around a little bit. But you would think he would kind of go down to the main area where all the activity is. And there's his footsteps there on the map.
Yeah.
And let's take a look at the video I have of the guy analyzing his activity. Let's see if I can spot that for you.
Right here.
We're going to come back to that because that gives us an orientation.
Okay, so you got one video here. The Riley Strain walk from Luke Bryan's bar to Riverside.
Yeah. Okay, just a second.
There's that, and then you have the other video. This is a clip right here. Time frame. You want to do this one? Here's the isolated time frame 1 minute after Riley Strain's last phone ping.
We can use the one I have there. She's got it in the wrong order. Okay, see the mysterious disappearance of Riley. Let's just go ahead with that one because she's got the main clips of him spotted on surveillance video. You can move it forward a little bit. See if you can find the clips that she's. Well, she explains it pretty well. Let's just go ahead with this.
Capital of country music, Nashville, for a Delta Chi fraternity brothers trip. Maybe hit some bars downtown, have a few drinks, flirt with some pretty young things, and listen to some live music. It was supposed to be a good time for all, and everyone was supposed to return to the hotel room at Tempo by Hilton. But that's not the way it went for 22-year-old Riley Strain. On the evening of March 8th, 2024, at approximately 9:35 p.m., Riley, all 6 feet 5 inches tall, of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed senior from the University of Missouri, was escorted out of country music star Luke Bryan's bar, 32 Bridge Food and Drink. Security walked Riley down the stairs to the bar's front entrance on Broadway, and Riley was followed down the stairs by one member of his party. That person, however, did not exit with Riley. That person walked back up the stairs and into the bar as Riley stepped out into the dark night. Being so tall, lean, and lanky, Riley stands out in the various security camera footage that has been published since he disappeared, as well as on a police officer's body cam, as he tries to navigate his way from the bar, presumably back to his hotel. But when his frat brothers return to the hotel, Riley isn't there. Eventually, they file a missing persons report. It has now been 12 days since Riley vanished, and there's still no sign of him. Well, I guess you could say there was one sign, and that—
Hold on. Is that him, Russ, that fell?
Yeah. Stumbled and fell.
He's been drugged.
Yep. That's not alcohol, I don't think.
He's been drugged.
When you're alcohol, you just sort of walk slowly. You're not going to run like that.
If you go back here, and I was watching his gait.
That has been published since he disappeared, as well as on a police officer's body cam as he tries to navigate his way from the bar.
I agree. I think he's drugged.
Yeah, he's tilting over.
Somebody slips up. Somebody stickied him. Slipped something in his drink, GHB or whatever.
Yep.
When his frat brothers return to the hotel, Riley isn't there. Eventually, they file a missing persons report. It has now been 12 days since Riley vanished, and there's still no sign of him. Well, I guess you could say there was one sign, and that came this past Sunday when 2 TikTokers searching for Riley found his credit card near the Cumberland River in Nashville while they were live streaming.
What is that all about? You find his credit card laying there?
By detectives with the card. Kudos to those TikTokers for doing the right thing. The card was located in the area between Gay Street and the Cumberland River where Riley was last seen. Riley's stepfather told NBC News that Strain had gone to 2 more bars in addition to Luke Bryan's on the night before he vanished. At Bryan's bar, Riley was served just 1 drink and 2 glasses of water. So here's a kid doing the right thing. He has a drink and he has 2 glasses of water. And surprisingly, the bar has said that Riley wasn't involved in any fights or any raucous behavior. It would appear that they felt that he had perhaps been overserved, maybe at another bar.
Now, my theory on the stop a second. This is important. The smiley face theory holds that the bars are and bartenders or whatnot. If you look at some of the cases down in Austin in particular, there's a lot of disappearances like this. They're involved. They're spiking the drinks. They're setting these guys up. They're oftentimes kicking them out. You know, even if somebody's drunk, you know, somebody's out of it, you don't just kick somebody out of a bar. You know, as long as they're not being unruly.
Yeah, there are a bunch of murders and missing people and murders that are being underreported in Austin. And there's this, I think it's called Elizabeth Street. And it's kind of this street that has it's like a lot of homes that were turned into restaurants and bars. And so it's not like 6th Street where there's all this kind of frat action and a lot of music clubs, but it is very popular. And I think over the last year and a half, if I'm not mistaken, there's been at least 12 missing people and murders in that area, and they don't really
they find them down in Ladyburg Lake.
That's right. And
so you have to believe that a young man, drunk or drug or whatever, immediately does a beeline to a lake, to a river, the Cumberland River, and goes in the water. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, I've lived enough in my life to know what it's like to be drunk and how I acted when I was drunk. And, you know, you walk cautiously, you know. I admit at one point I got into cars when I was drunk and, you know, when I was very young. That wasn't too smart. But other than that, I would not do a beeline to a waterway. So let's just follow this guy's activity. So you saw the stumbling. You saw him straggling along the street. There's one particularly interesting scene. Let's see if we can catch it, where he runs into a cop.
Okay.
And this cop, I don't know. Let me see if I put this up on your.
Do you want to stay with this video any longer?
Yeah, because I want you to see them walking by the cop.
Okay.
This is sort of the last sighting.
Onto Gay Street, and he sees a police officer checking cars. He's walking by himself. He's perfectly polite, perfectly articulate, and he's not stumbling uncontrollably. He even exchanges words with the police officer, kind words, a greeting, nothing offensive. And the officer doesn't see anything in Riley that causes him any alarm. But when Riley is picked up on other surveillance camera footage a short while later, he appears so out of it that he can barely walk on his own, and he even falls at one point and has trouble getting up. So how did he jump so quickly from being able to walk and converse coherently to someone who can barely stand? There lies the mystery, or at least...
Okay, she's got the order all wrong. She's got the order wrong. She's got the order all wrong. She's transversely ordered. The last sighting was going by the cop, where he seemed to be more sober.
Oh, okay.
Now, this guy that was the cop down there, turns out that he's a supervisor of 40 officers that handle school security in Nashville. And people were asking the question, what the hell was he down there doing, checking on car break-ins?
Yeah, so did he have an answer for that?
Well, no. There are no answers. No answers about the activity at the bar. There's no video being shown. They seem to be a little bit short of the surveillance videos of his walk.
Right.
Now let's just take a look at his walk.
All right. Do you want to go back?
That's going to be.
Oh, that's the other one.
Yeah, down there, the walk from the bar.
Okay, let me get out.
And you can kind of skip along a little bit, because we were just going to go to the keys, just to kind of show everybody what it was like, where he's going, what's he doing. I think these guys get lured. With apps. They use apps.
That's a really interesting idea. What do you think is luring them? Like somebody on Tinder or TikTok or
stuff like that.
Thing.
Yeah. Come on down to the river. I got a really romantic spot and like to get together with you. That type of shit.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But again, right? Like if that's true, that gets back into this idea of the killing machine, right? And this app inside the phone that leads this guy astray, that is part of this kind of, larger apparatus, whether it's the AI in Israel or the app on the phone. It's another component to this, right? It's like the technological component of this idea of the killing machine. Okay. So this is
and then just by coinky dink, the phone just disappears. So you can't see what his apps are. You can't see where somebody took the phone. It just stopped pinging at some point.
Let's count. We can count the blocks here. That's one block. That's two blocks. That's total maybe half a block, 2.5 blocks. We're going to call that.
Go ahead and hit the walk. We'll see what he was experiencing.
So
there's the map.
Basically 3 blocks, 3.5 blocks.
Yeah, 17 minutes. Not that one. This is the money shot. We're going to come back. We're going to finish with this. I got to set the stage a little bit.
All right.
So yeah, when he leaves the bar, the part where it says Riley Strain walked from Luke Bryan's bar on YouTube. Right below the little, kind of near the bottom.
That one. Okay. This is 30 minutes. Is there we're
gonna skip through it a little bit. I'll tell you when to push it so we can get through this.
That's the beginning. Luke Bryan.
Yeah, walks out of the bar. And there's one clear direction you go if you want to stay out a little bit longer. You've been kicked out of one bar, but hey, you're going to go home at 9:30. Really? We're not seeing it. Robert?
What's that?
We're not seeing it.
Oh, sorry. There we go. My bad. All right, here we go. I was being dazzled by the lights of Nashville.
Okay, so he's in front of Luke's bar. This guy's covering his route, his known route. So he kind of walks down this little side street. Okay, fast forward about a minute. A little bit more.
Rent one of those.
A little more.
Use pedestrian signal, but now I've never been to Nashville. I actually cross here.
So he's kind of off the beaten path, heading down towards the river. Okay, this is where he stumbles going across this parking lot.
That's Church Street. I'm cutting across. It's quicker, but it's a parking lot.
That's where he stumbled. He starts running and stumbles. Okay, go about 15 seconds.
It's a camera.
Okay, there's the wall we saw where he was kind of really acting kind of rubbery leg.
This is, I think, is this where he was up against the wall? Yeah, that's the camera up there. I believe this is it.
Okay, go another minute.
Someone will have to check because I can't open another app while I'm doing this. Thinking about that credit card though, because like, why would you have the credit card out? And if you had the credit card out, you'd have your whole wallet out, right? That don't make much sense.
So this is where he goes down to Gay Street. Okay. So he's seen crossing here, and he kind of has a little.
We are now on
interaction with two women that passed him.
Gay Street,
kind of ignored him.
And you see he goes down Gay Street on that map.
Okay, go another minute.
Two women rocking their hands. I don't know why. I think everyone.
Now, okay, it's kind of a nice view down here, so I can kind of see. Well, okay, it's still early. I'm gonna go down and take a look.
So he walks up this way, and I can see the red bridge already from here.
Turn this guy on mute.
The trees are so pretty, like pink and.
So he's got kind of a view of the river. It's kind of cool. Nissan Stadium, the Titans play.
Yep, I've been down that area.
But he's well above the river, so he's on a big embankment over this Cumberland River. The Cumberland River is going about 3.8 feet per second. So, and then the Cumberland River is shallow, 10 feet from the bank.
Mm.
So to fall into that river, you'd have to do a real wily coyote off of these ledges, this ledge area. So now he's coming up on. Okay, there's the river. See, it's down there. It's way down there.
Yeah.
But there are not too many people around, it's kind of dark and quiet down here.
Yeah, I mean, you run into areas like that in Nashville. That area that you're talking about is kind of like semi-industrial. It's got like kind of warehouses or places where they do like catering, and they've got like kind of bigger industrial spaces. You're not going to find a lot of foot traffic there at night.
So if you get off the path down there, it's pretty dark. You're not going to go down there,
right?
And so here's where he encounters this suspicious cop.
So this is where the cop is checking the.
Broken glass on the broken glass. I think it's right in front of this black car, right up there. Yeah, I see the broken glass. They haven't even come back and picked it up. What's that all about?
Wow!
Somebody broke into a car and they haven't even picked the glass up. And while he's encountering this cop, we didn't see that, but he walks by him and they both say hello to each other. A couple of cars come by that are kind of silver colored, almost one after another. Now he goes down to this bridge right here. And there's homeless people living down there. So, some people are saying, okay, he got rolled by homeless people. Possible. That's one explanation. Somehow they came out of the bushes and jumped him and rolled him.
Right.
But why would they kill him? That's just pull a knife or whatever and say, hand me your wallet.
Not only why would they kill him, but I don't know. It seems like, and I could be wrong or just speculating, that if they did kill him, there's probably a pretty good chance they'd find the body earlier. I'm just speculating.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, fairly long time.
Okay, so he goes under this bridge, and then this guy decoys off. But let's go up to the article again. And in the article, there is a map, and it shows the bridges. It shows a red dot, a blue dot, and kind of an orange dot.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes up to the second bridge, and that's where all of a sudden his phone stops pinging. But then the orange dot, there's a very interesting footage from this Birch building to the left.
Right there?
Yeah, you see this? It says the drowning victims. It says that here's the isolated time frame 1 minute after Riley Strain's phone last pinged. You see that? Let's take a look at this. See, enlarge it so people can see this. You got it up? That's not on.
Do you see it?
No. It's kind of like a hazy.
Hold on.
Video.
It's a video.
Yeah, right below the map. The map that's got the dots on it. The next video.
Okay. All right, there it is.
It's not up.
I'm trying to locate it. Hold on. All right, there's that. Okay, so it's this one. And
yeah.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Is there sound? There is sound with this.
No.
Okay.
No.
So is that him?
Start right from the beginning.
Okay.
All right. Now notice this. There's nobody there, right? All of a sudden, the guy in white, he's dressed in kind of like a white and black shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And people are saying, well, it can't be him because he had black in his shirt. Well, black doesn't reflect in the dark because the white reflects. You know, I notice how he stops and turns around and faces the other direction. He's walking. Now, his phone is not pinging. Car goes by. He is backing up here. He's not walking forward. See the flashlight? See the light come on? See the shadow?
Yeah.
The car goes by. See this kind of dark shadow?
Yeah. Yeah, I see the shadow.
And he's standing there looking at the dark shadow guy. Here comes the light on again. And he's walking towards him. I think this is the abduction.
Let's replay this.
They may have marched him to this spot from under the bridge. I think they might have ambushed him under the bridge, took his phone, and marched him up there. He's walking along. And somebody's following him in the shadows. And he stops. He's like, stop, turn around.
Right here, you can see it.
Yeah. Maybe two people in the shadows. Now watch for the lights to come on. The guy's flashlight or his phone.
Is he wearing a baseball cap?
No.
Okay.
But he's tall. See how tall he is? He's 6'6". That's a tall guy.
You can see the shadow emerge.
Yeah, he can. And for some reason, people really skipped over this thing. And he's kind of backing away a little bit. He tries to backpedal a little bit away from this guy. And here comes the light on. He's walking backwards to the curb. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing stops, which is kind of mysterious. And I theorized that a car came along or a truck or something, and they either picked him up, either he voluntarily went in there. Maybe the car came by and says, "Oh, here's the gal or the guy you're going to mess around with or whatever. Get in the car." May have gotten in there unknowing what he's getting into.
Right. So here we go. Here we go. What if he called an Uber and the Uber driver is somehow connected?
In on it, right? Possible. I've heard that theory. Uber driver picked him up.
Yeah, because I've seen this before. People will get into cars. In fact, I was one of those people. I got into a car, and it was an Uber, and I asked the guy, he was waiting for me. So, is this for Robert? He said, "Oh yes, it's for Robert. Come on in." And I get in the car, and this is in Philadelphia, and we're about 15 miles outside of Philadelphia. And he gets a call, and the guy who was originally supposed to take that Uber was named Robert. And, he was furious that the car wasn't there.
Oh, wow.
And this dude, I swear to God, he wanted to drop us off on the side of the road. He wasn't American. I said, "You can't do that. Right? I know you got to go back and get this guy, but you can't do that. So you got to go and drop us off at a place where, number one, it's safe. You can get another Uber."
Yeah, these guys are very organized. They could have Ubers on it, or they could have their own vehicle. And what's interesting is another video, which I don't have up here. It shows two cops walking by on the other side of the street. Not too long after this ended, maybe a minute later. There's cops in the area.
Okay. Let's play this out a little bit. Let's say he has a profile on Uber, right?
Yeah,
because a lot of people have profiles.
Yeah, I do. I have that. I have an Uber app. They really work well.
Profile, like you meet a specific criterion in the profile, and somebody who is an Uber driver is able to match the criterion. Now, it would also mean that it would have to somehow block other Uber drivers from picking him up, in which case you'd have to have some kind of a backdoor hack, jamming frequency. I don't know how they would wire the tech, but it would make the most sense.
Well, you're supposed to, when an Uber pulls up, they give you the license tab.
Right.
So you look for that, and it's your car. And usually they just kind of park and wait for you.
Okay, but here's the other part of it too. If you're fucked up and drugged,
right?
How much attention to detail will you have?
Exactly. And it's dark.
Right. So now you think you're getting into an Uber, and it's not. I think the Uber thing is a part of it.
Well, they could have taken his phone at the bridge and called an Uber on his app. They just go on there and look on his app. Oh, he's got an Uber app, because all you're doing is pushing buttons.
Right.
And the Uber does have the Uber zones in on you. They know where you are. They get
exactly.
the signal.
And there's no phone. So, right. There's no Uber would have a record. If you were a detective, right, you would want to check Uber and or Lyft for their rides at that time of night in that area. I think that's pretty doable.
Well, you could send the signal out to Uber under the bridge, march him 20 yards away. He's still inside of the bridge. Right. The Uber guys know to look around. They're not, just because you're not right there where the signal is last pinging doesn't. They might find that a little strange, Somebody could be sitting there under the bridge going, he's right over there. Right there's the guy.
I think the Uber plays a role, whether or not he dialed in on the Uber for a ride, or somebody is showing up as an Uber to give him a ride.
And they decoyed. Okay, right. They decoyed it.
Yeah. I think that's why he gets into the car. I think he thinks that he's going to be able to get a ride back to his home.
Or he could be forced in the car at gunpoint.
Could be.
I think they've got a gun on him. Get in the car. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? The guys that talk, drugged. You can't really walk very well.
He's also wearing size 15.5 cowboy boots, so he can't run.
Yeah, and all this stuff, when they find his body 13 days later, and they're searching all over. This is a national story. So they're searching all over this river. He's not bobbing up once in a while in the river. He's just going under. He's going under the river for 8 miles undetected. And then he ends up with kind of a log over his head, holding down. His back was kind of out of the river finally, kind of on the shore. And that's what they do. They dump him right on the shores. And you can't, there's a day, we don't really have time, but there's a daytime. He goes back by daytime and checks the area out. There's no fucking way this guy's going to do a Wile E. Coyote off that embankment. It's full of brush, rubbish, trees, and even if he went all the way to the riverbank, it goes about 10 feet out, where you could have waded out. It's not over your head until you go 10 feet out, and then the current's not that strong. It's 3.8 feet per second. It's not that big of a deal.
So Cat's Pajamas has an interesting comment. Scooter riders show up in this video later. Did they identify and interview them? Did you run across the scooter drivers?
Yeah, I don't know what's their theory on that. I don't really have a theory. I think they might just be people that just happen to be in the area, but who knows? You got to be open to anything on this.
So the Uber theory is, and by the way, I question, of course, Uber would have a record, but if you were inebriated in a state of disarray, and somebody pulled up as an Uber or pretended to be an Uber, then you don't even have to use the app, right? You would just automatically go, oh, did I call that? Oh, thank God you're here. Let me get back to my hotel room. So whether or not the app is being used or somebody is actually pretending to be an Uber driver. I mean, I think the idea of, a car where somebody would not forcefully enter the car would have to fall under that category. Now, to your point, he could have been forced in at gunpoint, and that's a different conversation.
And that's probably it, because like Tom was saying there, wouldn't they be able to detect an Uber app and a phone call? So I kind of almost rule phone call out because it would leave traces.
Yeah.
To me, it looks to me like they got him by gunpoint and got him into a vehicle and took him away for their little fun that they have with these young men, and then returned them probably 12 days later and dumped him down there in 8 miles downriver, kind of an industrial site.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of kind of industrial. I mean, once you get out of the kind of the party zone of Nashville, it's a little like rough,
Yeah.
Christine, who's pretty sharp, says fake Uber makes sense. I think that's kind of, so you're intoxicated, you've probably been drugged, and somebody shows up as an Uber, and your judgment is not very good at that time, and then you've got this shadowy figure behind you. I think you pop in. So even though the cell phone has been missing or they can't find it, Russ, they're able to track this stuff through the carrier. Has there been any cell phone tracking through the carrier?
Just the pings on a cell phone until it stopped there at the second bridge. No phone calls, and then it just disappears, and it's never been found. Now, there's one big thing I definitely want to do before we cut off on this, because this blows my mind. So go down to the last part of the article. You're going to see a thing that says, "You got to be kidding me, Maori." It shows the police at 7:00 in the morning. They find this guy in the river, and then they get him out. And then about 9:50, they have a press conference. Okay, you see the Maori, "You got to be kidding me" clip?
Yeah.
Pop that on and play that, the black police chief. You got it?
Hold on. Yep.
Yeah, the upper right. And this is literally a WTF. Now, when you play this and he's blabbing away, the police chief, notice this woman, or some people think a man, or some people think a tranny.
Right.
Coming up,
and we're going to see the stickers on the back of the phone, right?
Yeah, the stickers on the back of the phone are smiley face stickers. It's kind of like, what the hell? Really? You show up at the news conference when they pull the guy out of the body and you've got a smiley face stickers on the back of your phone, and you creep into this.
That person is smiling, by the way, behind the phone.
Yeah, you're not playing it. You got people who got to see it.
Oh, all right. Hold on.
It's my job to kind of spot you on this. There
Thanks,
we go.
Man. All right. I get into it. Look at this shit. Okay, here we go.
That he was wearing, so had to watch, and other identifying factors that helped us identify who he is. I want to say to the family, my heart and prayers go out to you all for this very unfortunate and tragic incident. I also want to say thank you to the Nashville community and the outpouring community of the outpouring support from the community in trying to help us locate Mr. Strain. I also want to say thank you to our USAR team and to the fire department at OEM and TWRA and everyone else, including the media, for everything that you've done, for the countless tips that came in. We received nearly 200 tips as of yesterday that we were vetting out. So at this time, the family's been notified. There will be an autopsy more than likely sometime today, and we'll have a little bit further from that point. So thank you.
Chief, can you tell us, is there any other?
All right, so I'm about to make a connection here that may not have been made yet. So give me 1 second.
Okay, you see the images there on the phone, a little enlarged?
Yeah, it's a smiley face. Right?
Like,
it is the smiley
really?
face.
And then she shows up at the vigil later on and makes kind of a crocodile tear type comments and saying, I'm glad I finally got to meet you. What kind of a statement is that? He's dead in the river. I finally got to meet you.
Let me go back to this thing.
I mean, you talk about high strangeness. I find this very high strange.
That he was wearing, so had to watch, and other identifying factors that helped us identify who he is. I want to say to the family, my heart and prayers go out to you all for this very unfortunate and tragic incident. I also want to say thank you to the Nashville community and the outpouring community of the outpouring support from the community in trying to help us locate Mr. Strain. I also want to say thank you to our USAR team and to the fire department at OEM and TWRA and everyone else, and including the media, for everything that you've done, for the countless tips that came in. We received nearly 200 tips as of yesterday that we were vetting out.
I'm trying to decode that sweatshirt that person is wearing. Let me just see if I can. Yeah. It doesn't fit the same color scheme, but the mascot of the Nashville hockey team is the Predators. And okay. All right. Okay. We're getting close here. Here we go. Now, they have different colors, but here is a person's wearing a maroon. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Person wearing a maroon jersey. And I guess this is in conjunction with Mickey Mouse or Disney Night. But I'm just wondering if they're wearing a Predator. I mean, it says Nashville on the front, and it looks like there's some logos on that shirt. And I'm just trying to see if there's more.
People have actually identified who this girl is. She was involved in some case down in Alabama, coming to the defense of a couple of guys that burned down 9 churches in Alabama, and she claimed they were innocent. They went to prison for that. But she was a big public defender of these young men in Alabama that were church burners.
Right.
Sounds kind of Discordian to me.
So you do a lot. You do some stuff with William Ramsey around material. What does he think about this latest iteration and this person of interest?
Yeah, they think this is an important case that could break wide open. I mean, Nancy Grace is onto it. She's not naming it a smiley face killer case, but she says it's very suspicious. Looks like foul play in her opinion. She's done a couple shows. And she's a real hard-nosed type person. You know, she can be a little bit strident because she's defending the victims. You know, she's coming to the defense of the victims and going after the bad guys. So this is the kind of case that might break the right way and might expose the cult around these killings.
Christine says she's an actor. I'd like to know what Christine means by that. Meaning, is she somebody who is a professional actor? Is she like a crisis actor? And I don't disagree with that. Like, what kind of actor? What kind of
in the little interview she did at the vigil, she did this act like she was acting. Unfortunately, that seems to have disappeared off the internet.
Yeah. So Christy says crisis actor. So Russ, earlier on, I think before we hit the live button, you said that a lot of this true crime stuff is really becoming more prevalent. Like it's starting to really permeate the culture more.
There's a lot of it on YouTube. Everybody's got a true crime channel. They're going back and looking at a lot of the serial killer cases. There's some pretty good content makers. I kind of like it. I wouldn't exactly put it like it. I get absorbed in it, like particularly this case. I've gone back, and looked at the Ted Bundy cases real closely because I was living in that neighborhood when he committed a couple of his crimes at the University of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that, I saw particularly the case of Georgianne Hawkins, which is like about 3 blocks from where I lived, got her in an alley with a crowbar. Just very haunting. Very, very, very haunting. I have kind of like bad dreams where I kind of, in the dream, I feel like I'm trying to save Georgianne from Ted. And she's coming down the alley and I go, Georgianne, look out, look out, look out in the dream. And she doesn't respond to me, just ignores me.
You have this dream.
Yeah.
So you feel like you have some personal responsibility or something.
I think it kind of stems back to the helplessness I feel about exposing a lot of this stuff, even dealing with it, you know, like I've done, like kind of what I was saying in the beginning, something to do with that. But Georgianne Hawkins was like a very attractive, like 19-year-old girl my age that lost her life to Ted Bundy at the University of Washington at 1:00 in the morning. She was returning to her sorority. And he just ambushed her, put her in his Volkswagen and took her out to Taylor Mountain and murdered her.
Gruesome.
So there's a lot of that. There's just a lot of this showing up on YouTube now. Or if you really want to dwell in some of this dark stuff, it's just like constant. And then Netflix, a lot of true crime stuff. So it's sort of a social phenomena.
So here's a theory I want to put out there. Right now we're witnessing, it seems to be that a kind of wanton and deliberate destruction of infrastructure in this country, whether it's a bridge in Baltimore, whether it's a petroleum line from a couple of years back in the South, whether it's masses of acreage of, grazing pasture and cows in West Texas, processing plants. I mean, we could sit here and probably find at least 25, 30, maybe more examples of what looks to be very targeted attacks on infrastructure, which I believe to be true, by the way. If we go back and look at like what would happen in World War I, in World War II, you would see large swaths of the male population being eradicated, right? Culled. And, incredibly courageous, maybe heroic.
Creme de la creme.
Right. Being just wiped out, right? How long has this Smiley thing been going on for?
Oh, they believe since 1997, 98. Some of the early cases.
Right. And what kind of numbers are we talking about?
Probably 300.
Maybe more.
Maybe more. Depends on, because you got some activity in Europe, particularly in Britain.
Right. And again, there seems to be a profile and a target, like a target and profile. And they're going after a particular group for the most part, right? And again, you sort of piece these things together. You have it seems like the targeting of the infrastructure. You have and even targeting of a generalized or localized subsection of the population. And again, it gets back to this idea of this killing machine, where it feels like, we're kind of, dealing with this grinder, right? And the killing machine it's not just about being human. Like, we're going to have millions of chickens slaughtered because of some bird flu thing, right? We're going to have thousands of heads of cattle potentially slaughtered because of the bird flu. And it all falls under the rubric of this killing machine. And the end, well,
it's almost kind of like a culling machine.
It is a culling machine, but in order to cull, you must kill. And I think the words are, suspiciously, culling and killing are they're cousins, phonetically, right? I mean, and then you have the whole war thing, which is another layer of it. And you add it all up, and it's like, what's really going on here?
Well, and the war thing in Gaza, I mean, I can hardly stand it anymore, because every time you open up a news item, there's some little kid that's been slaughtered.
Right. There you go. Right.
I'm talking about demoralizing. That really gets old fast.
Right. So
you turn your head away and you can't look at it anymore. And I think when you don't look at it, then you kind of disengage, which is kind of where I think they want you going. And this Riley Strain thing, there's a bunch of people that just call any kind of questioning of this totally strange incident conspiracy theories and craziness, and gaslight you.
Yeah,
a lot of that. A lot of that going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge amount. Although it feels to me like the conspiracy IQ is like going through the roof. I remember 10 years ago, the amount of people that were talking about this or related topics was limited. Now it like dominates, like, you know, it dominates YouTube, it dominates Twitter. And you know, there's some craziness that goes along with it where everything is a conspiracy. And, you know, just because, you know, one day you decide to wear a purple shirt, you know, you're indicted, right? I mean, there's that kind of like, you know, edgy paranoia that's also a part of it. But I'd say by and large, it's getting harder to gaslight people because people are starting to see that this reality is a lot stranger, more corrupt, wicked, vile, and manipulated than we've been led to believe. And maybe they've turned up the volume at the same time.
Well, you know, this thing with the girl on the smiley face phone, you know, I'm sure people will react like, oh, come on, man, just leave her alone. You know, she's just there out of curiosity or to support the whatever. Very well could be. But, you know, when you show up with a smiley face looking kind of sheepish and licking your chops, I don't just look past that. I don't have any proof that she's involved, but it just seems like a very sus incident.
So she is, you know, they call that duper's delight, right? She is delighting in this moment where she can flash that phone and put those stickers in front of the camera.
And serial killers like this, dude, they show up. They show up on the scenes and start hanging around the police. You know, like Ed Kemper in Florida, he was big buddies with the police. I mean, Gacy probably did like benefits for the police, right? I mean, Bundy was working with some kind of crime prevention council in Seattle, and he learned all the methods and kind of knew the holes in the. I mean, he was a professional. He was a professional at what he did, if you could call it that. So the whole thing about conspiracy theories, I kind of feel like the dream with Georgianne, and you know, like she didn't hear me, and I couldn't save her. And so if you're saying just crawl into a hole, ignore all this stuff, that Ted Bundy's coming down the alley, you know, 2 blocks from where I lived at the time, 3 blocks from where I lived up by Herfy's, kind of on the other Roosevelt, not too far. And I'm very familiar with that whole area where he stalked 2 women, you know, and killed them early on in his career. So when I see the creeper coming out with the phone, that's just the way I react. I mean, maybe I'm just a fucking conspiracy theorist. I don't know, but there's darkness in this world.
Have you ever seen the movie Cloud Atlas?
No.
It was based on a pretty sprawling and very ambitious novel that has to do with like multiple timelines, people occupying different identities simultaneously. The concept is pretty interesting. And the Wachowski brothers, who directed The Matrix, directed Cloud Atlas. And on the one hand, they turned it into kind of a racial movie. Like when you really study Cloud Atlas, all of the scenes in Cloud Atlas revolve around race, identity, racism, you know, very common themes that are societal now. But one of the sub themes in Cloud Atlas is, and it shows up again and again and again in every scene of the movie, no matter what timeline, what body, what lifetime, is that in this world, there are 2 binary potentialities. And those binary potentialities are you either eat or you are the eaten, right? And they come up with this again and again and again, right? You're either the meat or you're the person, you know, eating the meat.
You're the person wearing the Predator t-shirt.
The Predator shirt, right? And that's what it's starting to feel like, right? That's kind of what's emerging. Like when they take off the gloves, when they take off the sort of the social order, when they break down the rule of law by defunding police and kind of, recontextualizing what a criminal is, when they break down religion and the organizing principle, which has held people together for a long period of time, when all that goes away, then what remains? You're either the predator or you're the prey. And this to me is also a part of the killing machine. Clearly the killing machine is predatory, right? And then this is the stark, cold reality that ultimately that film is talking about. And that's something that a lot of people don't really want to look at. So where are you? Are you the predator or are you the prey? I mean, the idea of Jesus, he comes along and says, well, look, there's a third path here. You don't have to be either. Like you could transcend that kind of dichotomy. But this is the reality that they're kind of instituting, right?
Well, you could also be like interject yourself into that process as a warrior of some type. That's their choice. Hence my dream.
So Peter says, I thought Cloud Atlas was cool. I thought the idea was that your race wasn't really important. We all reincarnate into different cultures and races. I think that that's part of it, but clearly there's racial
predator prey model. Yeah. Predator and prey model. I mean, I definitely agree with that.
So yeah, I mean, here we are, we're kind of in the midst of this world where it feels like the gloves are coming off. The fangs are getting sharpened, and people are becoming more aware of this idea of this killing machine. And again, the killing machine can encompass things like technology and AI, and even something like interdimensional, right? Like this is just a thing that happens. It's like a demiurge. Somebody brought up this idea of a demiurge inside of the chat, and it literally possesses humans in order to do things that most humans would find to be contemptible. Like your guy, Ted Bundy, would be a clear example of that. Couldn't help himself.
Yeah. And he's also very good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. How can we send people out here with a positive message, Russ?
Well, I don't know. I think we're kind of at an interesting crossroads. I hope my optimistic version of what I presented earlier unfolds.
Yep.
That's about all I have. I'm just a little bit hopeful that maybe there's some white hats that are trying to get a hold of the situation on behalf of the United States as a country, so the United States doesn't go down the toilet with the Israelis, and maybe to even save the Israelis, get them back on the right path.
Well, yes,
but I think that's naive.
I think we have to call in E. Michael Jones for that one. He's got the prescription.
That's my positive spin on the Iran getting the green light.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the eclipse, Russ? By any chance, you're going to be out of the eclipse zone, but do you have any thoughts or ideas about it?
I think I went to one eclipse before during the daytime when I was a kid when I was up in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't stare at the sun. Don't blind yourself.
Yeah, Mario from Symbolic Studies actually did it. And he burned out part of the cornea in one of his eyes. So That's sage advice. All right, Russ, we'll bring you back in about a month. And in the meantime, you take care of yourself, and always looking forward to your articles. Find Russ Winter at winterwatch.com. If you're on Twitter, please follow Russ. He's a very good follow. He could use your support on Twitter. I try to retweet him whenever possible. And that's about it. Russ, thanks for all your work. We'll see you next
See
time.
you guys next month.
All right, take care.
Hang in there. Bye-bye.
That was the great Russ Winter. And we will see him on the first Friday of next month as we heat up with the eclipse. We've already had a 4.8 earthquake on the East Coast of the United States. If you look at the history of eclipses, both solar and lunar earthquakes do occur. We had an earthquake in Taiwan last week, at the beginning of the week, right? And in 1999, the earthquake in 1999 in Taiwan happened at the same lunar position of a solar eclipse that was going to occur outside of the path. Taiwan was outside of the eclipse path. So in a weird way, right, it was like a mirror event. 1 week before the eclipse, the same lunar position, which was a 3/4 moon, Taiwan went through a major earthquake. 1999, they were not in the eclipse path, almost the same 3/4 position of the moon at the same time before the eclipse. Taiwan goes through another earthquake. So the world is moving and shaking. And we talked about the New Madrid fault line on, quite frankly, the other night. God forbid we would have some seismic activity in that area. But of course, the eclipse mirrors, it follows the New Madrid fault line. So we'll keep our eyes out for that. In the meantime, do your best to live your life and don't allow fear to be your guiding light. It should never be your guiding light. But awareness needs to be in listening to your instincts, your intuition, and your impulses that are clearly going to be measured and thought through are important, right? And we do have them for a specific reason. So there is a function to fear, right? There is a function to fear. If you're walking down a dark alley at night in a city that you're not familiar with, you don't want to be all lovey-dovey and trusting. You need to have some awareness in your field. Am I right? It's not being afraid. It's just being aware of the fact that something could happen. So if we can live with that without it dominating just lording over our existence so that we just want to crawl into a bunker, and it's probably the best example of living with some level of discernment and awareness that can help you through times like these. But you don't want to let that predominate, right? What you want to allow you to move you and guide you is your spirit. And your spirit, if it is aligned with God and the Most High, will never fail you. All right. That's it. We're out of here. Bye for now. Thanks again to Russ Winter. We'll be back on Sunday night to kind of go over the eclipse that's coming. And that'll be right here on this channel. Chataria, thank you so much for all of your support. Mods, you're the best. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and be a part of this experience where we get to connect and talk and throw theories around and have a wide-ranging group of discussions and people that have very different points of view, but bring them to the conversation both inside and outside the chat in a way that's stimulating and will open your eyes. All right, take care, everybody. Bye for now.